Hello, my name is Steven and I'm a Polish Bitcoin vlogger. And my guest today, actually, it depends where you're from, are the representatives of the Ethereum Classic community. And we will try to explain some things, some misunderstandings between the Ethereum and Ethereum Classic. And I hope we're gonna discover some interesting informations. So my guest tonight is Carlo Vicari and Christian Seberino. How are you guys?
Very good, thank you.
Buddy.
Could you, for the starters, could you tell us about yourself, what you are working right now, and how long you are involved in the Ethereum or cryptocurrency space?
Carla, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I've been interested in cryptocurrencies for quite a while, but not necessarily to this degree. I really got involved with the Ethereum Classic project when the fork happened, which to me was, very, very intriguing thing. So I wrote a short article, Ethereum Classic Chains of Future Past. Not necessarily a huge publishing thing, but I kind of posted it on the Ethereum Classic Slack and it got passed around. People asked me a couple of different questions. I answered some questions. And at that point, I really just started participating in the community more and more on more documents, on things here and there, answering questions here and there. And it just kind of snowballed from there in a really organic way. And now I've been brought aboard by Input Output Hong Kong and Charles Hoskinson, that's IOHK, to be a community manager. And he's committed me, very generously. He's committed me towards the Ethereum Classic project and just trying to build the community from here and let everybody know a lot of the awesome development that's going on behind the scenes with this project. And I'll pass it over to Christian.
Yeah, so I've been, let's see, so I got my PhD in the year 2000, and then after that I did several years of development for lots of different places, the military, in academics. I started some businesses, worked for a cell phone company, did cryptography, classified work for the National Security Agency, for the Android, the project for Google. So I've been involved with tech for a long time, and then I got involved with Bitcoin a while back, and then I found out about Ethereum, got fascinated with the technology, and my whole career, even back before my PhD and after, I was always trying to explain things to people. And I would always have these in group meetings with the developers. I remember trying to explain Python, why we should switch to Python at one point. And so people would always give me positive comments about that. And I realized there was a demand in the Ethereum community for good educational materials. And I saw that that was a need, and my goal now is to try to fill that. And so I also got help from IOHK, so I'd like to thank them. They're helping to fund my efforts to write good educational materials for Ethereum.
Okay, guys. So, Cristiano, could you tell us, Christian? Could you tell us more about the Ethereum Classic and what's the idea behind it? Like the the fundamentals of Ethereum Classic, and why is it still working? Like
Yeah,
it shouldn't.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a couple ways to answer that. So its relationship to Bitcoin is that the scripting language is more powerful, so you could do things on their blockchain that you can't do with Bitcoin. As far as its comparison to Ethereum with the hard fork, the difference is more ideological. They believe that it is appropriate in some cases to modify the history in the blockchain, whereas the Ethereum Classic community thinks that that is a principle, the immutability of the blockchain, that shouldn't be compromised. it's an ideological difference between the two Ethereum communities, and it's a technical difference between Classic and Bitcoin because of the power of the scripting language.
Okay, so could you summarize what is the state of the Ethereum Classic? Like, because I'm wondering, is it developing right now, or is it stagnating, or I don't know, maybe decline? How many projects are developed right now on the space Ethereum Classic, and yeah, for starters?
So I don't know the exact number of developers and projects, but I know that there's a lot of excitement. I'm on Slack all the time, and more people are coming all the time and discussing and organizing. I'm making materials. I just published my first paper describing the replay attack, the issues around that on Steemit. You can find that. I posted it on Reddit, on the subreddits as well. So there is a lot going on. I know Carlo is doing a lot. We're doing this interview. So, I mean, there's things happening. People are slowly organizing. It's a young community, so that's why we don't have maybe the organized public face yet, so that people could see that there's a lot going on. But behind the scenes, we are getting more and more organized every day.
Okay, maybe, yeah, Carlo, could you tell us, do you have any projects in mind which are specifically focused on the Ethereum Classic chain?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the most prominent project that's at the forefront of Ethereum Classic at the moment is being spearheaded by Avtar Sarah. It's called Fundonomy. There's a lot of posts about it on our Ethereum Classic subreddit. It's talked about quite a bit, although since it's such an alpha stage, he's not necessarily promoting it marketing-wise or anything like that, but it's shaping up to be a very, very cool project, and I'll try to fill you in a little bit more on the specifics, since, as far as screenshots and stuff like that is concerned, that I can't share specifically right now. Another thing to try to get things a little bit more on the forefront and let people know about what's going on, we're going to be taking the development report that's released by Colibri every week on the Ethereum Classic subreddit and adding that with other news and events and things that are going on in the community and turning that into a full-fledged newsletter, which will be released weekly. And we think that will help, get a little bit more community exposure and let people know in the greater blockchain community about what's going on with the project behind the scenes. So that's an important point that we'd like to do going forward, which we're working on. We should have the first newsletter released starting next week, actually.
Wait, can I say something?
Yeah, sure.
So Carlo has been really great. That's what impressed me about wanting to come on board with the Classic community was people were just so on fire. Like Carlo was working on the, he worked on the Declaration of Independence, and I came in, I remember the way that I first talked to Carlo was there was mention that we should have one. And I thought, oh, I want to help write that. And I came in and I stumbled upon Carlo on Slack, and they had already done it. Several people had already discussed it. There was lots of iterations, and Carlo even said, no, this is done. We don't want to work on this anymore, or else it's never going to get finished. So that was really impressive how Carlo, his passion, and all these people that were just really pushing it forward from the very beginning.
Also, just to defer, I'm communicating for the developers and for a lot of people in the development community, but as far as like the real important tasks that go on with the project, I defer all wisdom and credit to them. I'm just trying to let everybody know about the cool stuff that they're doing behind the scenes. They like to focus on coding, and coding is what they do. I will be able to have one of the developers on, our next show. I'd love to do another show with you. Fortunately, one or two of them couldn't make it today, but next time we'll definitely be able to have a couple of them on to answer some more technical questions, if you like.
Okay. As part of the Ethereum Classic community, could you tell me, do you feel left off by the Ethereum main chain Ethereum community, or do you feel being a part of them? Or I don't know, maybe you feel like an ex-girlfriend of them, or what is the relationship between the community of the Ethereum Classic and Ethereum of the main chain?
Well, I think originally between both chains, it took a little bit of a tone, but I think both communities have really progressed from then, and it's more of like I made a post about this. I'd like it to be more of like a sports rivalry, you know, friendly competition between chains, between ideologies. So I think friendly competition between us will be more beneficial and be it'll push us both into new innovations and new directions rather than both trying to drag each other down. So I like to view it as a friendly rivalry that will push us to our limits in good ways and not bad.
Can I say something about that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just, yeah, I have, you know, respect for the Ethereum community. Just to give you an example, when I was writing my replay attack paper, I got some help from Vitalik, and I got some help from Nick Johnson, who is a prominent developer, and I even thanked him at the end of my Steemit paper. So
Absolutely.
I have nothing but respect, and there's no reason why we shouldn't work together. We can only help each other. We all care about blockchain technology. So I think maybe on Reddit, it might appear, some people might make it like there's this hostility, but the people that are getting the real work done are not acting that way, I don't think.
Absolutely.
Have you been to the DEF CON this year?
I haven't. I would have loved to go.
I would love to go there, yeah.
Oh, this is not good news, actually. You haven't been invited, or what? You haven't have time?
Both.
Pretend I didn't have time, yeah. No,
Maybe.
I'm brand new. I wasn't expecting when I first got on board to, just, join the team and just fly away to China to DEF CON. So maybe next year, depending on how I am in certain things. But yeah, I'd love to go, obviously.
Carl, you've mentioned the Charles Hoskinson, yeah, and the company IOHK, and you said that he's doing a lot of work in funding the Ethereum Classic projects and the community around it. Could you tell us more about this man? Like, who is it? Actually, I haven't done any research to find out who is he, and could you tell me what's his specific interest in the Ethereum Classic community?
Yeah, I apologize. I should have actually sent you over a couple of links in reference to IOHK and Charles as well. So Charles was actually one of the founding members of Ethereum way back when, and he left the team due to differences at some point. I believe it was 2014, although don't quote me on that. I'm not sure exactly. So he's taken an interest in Ethereum Classic for principled reasons, because he believes in the original vision, the original social contract that people signed up for when they got into Ethereum. And also not just principles, but he also, this helps IOHK helping the Ethereum Classic project, because since what IOHK does is help build blockchains throughout the world for various purposes, and so the learning that he does through the Ethereum Classic project, the tools that he's going to help build and be a part of, he can now put those tools on a shelf for later use in other blockchain technology. And so it's a learning experiment as well as a passion of his at this point.
So it's not a business for him?
Excuse me?
It's not a business for him. It's like his mission, or what's his intentions?
There's definitely a point to it as far as business is concerned, but there's also a passion element as well. What percentage of each, I'm not sure exactly, but I do know that it's important for his business to be involved in this project as well as his personal interest.
Okay, so let's get to the point of the Ethereum Classic. So So could you tell us more about the difficulty bump on the Classic chain? When is it happening, and how you're going to handle moving to proof of stake?
Yeah. So do you want to answer that, Carlo, or do you want me to?
You can go ahead first, and I've got some stuff I'll pull up here. Go ahead.
All right. Yeah. So I haven't been working on that, but my understanding is that there was intentionally the code was written so that they would be forced to make a hard fork to either adjust proof of work to remove it, the difficulty bomb, or switch to something else like proof of stake. And that was intentional because then you can't have disagreement about whether we should hard fork or not. And so now in the Classic community, the debate now, so we have to do something. So the debate is, should we just stay with proof of work or move to proof of stake? And I think a lot of people are saying, hey, this might be a great way to distinguish ourselves from the other project. If they move to proof of stake and it's new technology, maybe they even discover there's problems with it. And if we stay on proof of work, look how great it'll appear that, you know, we were kind of more cautious and that proved to be the right decision. And there's that type of discussion is going on right now. But I would imagine if we moved to proof of stake ever, and that's a big if, it'll probably be after the other project kind of takes the risk of going first and making the mistakes. So.
Carlo?
Yeah, I have a couple of analogies that I like to say as far as kind of our general strategy for something like that is we have ideological differences as far as immutability is concerned, but we also have ideological differences. They say it quite often. They say, move fast, break things. We don't feel that this is a great mantra to have when you're dealing with mission-critical software for billions of dollars or millions of dollars. So we try to have the idea of security before accessibility rather than accessibility and then figure out security later. So if they're going to blaze the trail for proof of stake, we're going to take a wait and see approach because it's prudent security-wise to see what comes of it. It's almost like a biker in the Tour de France drafting behind someone, conserving their energy to pass at an opportune moment later in the future, potentially. But so we're planning on being proof of work unless a proposal is put forth with merit, whether it's proof of work, proof of stake hybrid, or some other algorithm of hashing or something like that. So we're just taking a wait and see approach at the moment. We're focusing on security first. There's a Ethereum Classic improvement proposal. It's ECIP 1010. That's for delaying the bomb. So the bomb is going to be delayed. And in between then and now, different proposals are going to be made for what we should do going forward as far as, you know, proof of work, proof of stake hybrid, or proof of work, whatever it may be.
So we should expect the hard fork and Ethereum Classic for delaying the difficulty bump, right?
Yeah, the delay is scheduled for, I'll have the delay deployed block January 15th, 2017. They're going to put in the delay, and that's going to give us time, looks like until about June 2018, although we might do something before then. So it's just delaying, but doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to wait till the very last day to go forward with any proposed plan. We're going to judge all the proposals based on their merits and move from there.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Yeah.
So it's actually, I mean, I respect Vitalik for having the courage to be innovative and, you know, propose new ideas. And it's actually, it has merit. Well, obviously it has merit, or Vitalik and wouldn't do it. But the concern with traditional proof of work mining is the cost to the environment. It takes a lot of energy to run all those computers to do all that mining, and it's not really doing anything that's intrinsically useful, right? To find these hashes that have the zeros at the beginning. So the idea is, why not switch to something else that has less of an impact on the environment? And so if that works, wonderful. Why do people need to waste resources on proof of work? Now, it's kind of interesting. I was saying that they're going to go first and they take the risk. The analogy now is there was an ongoing denial of service attack against the other project that's not impacting Classic so much, if at all. And so it kind of reminds me of all the attackers. So I'm a Linux guy. All the attackers would attack Windows because it was more popular, and Linux would avoid a lot of the problems because just kind of be under the radar because it just didn't have the visibility of Windows. And I see the other project, Ethereum, kind of taking the risk, going out in front and getting the brunt of the attacks, whereas we kind of are in the back watching and learning. So it's a kind of a nice position to be in, I guess you could say, not being the most popular at this point in time.
And this is quite controversial when you say the proof of work doesn't have any sense, because staking, you have a choice. You can stake in energy, or you can stake virtual tokens, This is.
Well, I'm not saying, okay, so proof of work is a brilliant idea, and it allows you to have decentralized consensus. So it's useful in that sense. But what I'm saying is, it's a shame that we have to use so much computing resources to accomplish that important function. That's all I'm saying. It would be nice if we could accomplish that important function of decentralized consensus without needing more computing power than Google has. Okay, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe we can leave it from here, because we can start in another discussion. So this is not the place for this. Okay. But okay, so maybe we can talk more about the DAO hacker. So who was he, and does he found you, or I don't know, what do you think about him? Because you stayed on the chain where this guy stole quite a lot of money from many people from around the world. So how is it being on the same chain as the biggest hacker, biggest exploiter in the crypto world?
Well, I'm not pro DAO hacker by any means. What we are is pro immutability, and I just want to make that clear. We just feel that someone taking advantage of a system or taking advantage of a contract in a legal way should be pursued by authorities, whoever they may be in whatever jurisdiction it might be. And it shouldn't be pursued by the blockchain community to change the whole foundation of the system just to go after someone that took advantage of something that was poorly executed contract or poorly executed code. Analogy that I like to use for this when explaining this to certain people is, you've got the castle that's built on a strong foundation, which is, the blockchain is the foundation, the castle is Ethereum or Ethereum Classic, and the different vaults that are inside the castle are the contracts. Now, if one of these vaults, these smart contracts, is built poorly, the question is about the smart contract. If that vault gets robbed, you don't change the whole foundation of the castle just to fix the vault. No, you've got to call into question the vault, you get the guards, and you try to catch the person who robbed the vault. You don't change the structure of the whole project simply because one of the vaults was faulty. And I think this leads to a lot of different moral hazards in the future. Number one, because you bailed out the person who built this faulty vault, it creates a moral hazard where in the future maybe vaults might not be as secure potentially in the future. Now, I'm not saying they will or won't be. I'm saying it is a slippery slope to walk on when you bail out poorly constructed vaults. That's just my personal opinion on the matter.
Christian, would you like to add something?
Yeah, I don't have as great of an analogy as Carlo does, but I mean, obviously we don't agree with theft, and we wish that that wouldn't have happened, the DAO theft. But what, and I've heard this the arguments both ways. I think people on the other side, a lot of times I think they fail to understand the damage that is caused by changing the blockchain, the history. As Carlo was saying, the slippery slope. And people just look at the theft that happened and said, that's bad, we have to fix it. But they don't consider the cost of fixing, of how they fixed it. And so that's
Yeah.
what
Could lead to a lot of, now this is all conjecture, this is all potential. This could lead to a lot of potential litigation in the future. And I think this potential fear of litigation is what's going to maybe keep some mainstream investors at bay or big players at bay. And it's almost going to be like an investment sound barrier, so to speak. There's going to be that barrier of doubt due to this this break with immutability that they had, where maybe other blockchains will break through the sound barrier, and because they went against their principles and changed the transaction, it might stop them from breaking through in the future, potentially.
Okay.
Can I just say one more thing?
Yeah.
So this point has to be made. So when we say that we believe in immutability, it doesn't mean that we don't believe that the DAO attacker should be prosecuted. And there's other laws, obviously, besides the rules of the blockchain. And so people sometimes forget that if you do something questionable on the blockchain that breaks the laws of your country, you're going to be susceptible to prosecution. So you don't need the blockchain to prosecute criminals if you're breaking the law. There's other ways, is what I'm trying to say. Okay.
Could you address the latest attack on the Ethereum main chain? Like, do you have any thoughts on that? Like, who's doing it? What's his interest? Why isn't him attacking the Ethereum Classic chain? Like, do you see any implications around this?
Yeah. So I mean, we don't know who's doing it, so we can only speculate. And my guess is, like I was saying, with Linux versus Windows, they're more popular, so you get more attention if you attack their blockchain. That's maybe why that's happening. They're
but it's more expensive.
But you get, yeah. So, and speaking of that, I was reading that it's costing them thousands of dollars to do this attack. So then that made me wonder, well, why is somebody spending all this money to do this? And
sure.
Okay. Oh, all right. Actually, I'm not a savvy investor. I didn't think of that, but maybe I should have. But I think some people have accused the Ethereum Foundation of just trying to put spin on this, put a positive light. But I think it's true what they said, nevertheless, which is that in the long term, this can actually be beneficial because they'll fix the whatever they have to do so that these are either not possible or much more difficult in the future, these type of attacks.
Do you have any plans of fixing the same problems with the Ethereum Classic chain? Because your client is also vulnerable for these kinds of attack right now, right?
Yeah, so obviously we want to put all the known security precautions into the clients that we can. So there's obviously going to be efforts to do that as we find ways, vulnerabilities. But what I wanted to go back to that when I said that it could be a benefit when you're attacked this way. Andreas made this point with Bitcoin. I believe he called it the sewer rat analogy. I don't know if you're familiar with that. The idea is that a sewer rat is exposed to so much disease and so much danger that just the fact that it survived is a miracle, and it's built up so much immunity from all that abuse. and that Bitcoin, because it's survived through all these attacks, it's now so much stronger. And I like that analogy, and I think it applies to Ethereum as well.
Carlo, would you like to add
yeah.
something?
I think attacks like these, while they are, obviously not a great thing, but I agree with Andreas's point about that it makes the community stronger, it makes the blockchain stronger, it forces people to come out with patches, and it really turns that castle into a more robust castle in the end. So that is the silver lining of it all. And yeah, the devs are.
But do you, as a Ethereum Classic, do you address any of these concerns? Like, do you work on your clients to be immune for these kinds of attack in the future, or your?
No, the main focus of the devs right now is security first. So the discussion is not about anything other than security when it comes to these sorts of things. If something comes up, it's almost the immediately first thing discussed by the guys on Slack or the guys on GitHub. It's about trying to mitigate these attacks and figure out ways to step ahead of what could potentially this hacker be doing next. So security first is our priority, and they're definitely sticking to that mantra.
Excuse me. Okay, could you speculate who's the attacker of the main chain, just for fun?
I can speculate, I guess. I think it's the DAO hacker, personally, but that's again speculation. I have zero evidence. I have zero anything. That's all I got. I think it's the DAO hacker.
Yeah, I would speculate that it has to be a hardcore developer, because same thing with that's what was thought about the DAO attacker. You have to really understand the technology to find these vulnerabilities that the Ethereum Foundation hasn't found yet. So obviously somebody that's very involved with the technology, communicating with the developers, that would be my guess.
Okay. Yeah, he got also quite a lot of money to spend for attacking the main chain, right?
Yes, yes. But can I make another point about something? So I was talking about the sewer rat analogy and how these attacks could make systems stronger. So some people have even called the whole DAO attack hard fork discussion, they called that the 99% social attack, and that the Ethereum Classic, it was impressive that it survived the people that believed in immutability, that idea didn't die, but they just created another project. So they use that as an example of the resiliency of the project. And even Carlo, at the end of the Declaration of Independence, he said the Ethereum Classic project was anti-fragile. You may want to look that up. That's an interesting idea about some technologies, and I think it's true for this case that these blockchains can be anti-fragile. They can get better with stressors, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay. In my last interview with Grief Green, I don't know if you've seen it, but he mentioned that Ethereum Classic chain might be a place for the Darknet projects, and I was wondering, what do you think about that?
By Darknet, I assume he means a lot of I
don't know, Ponzi schemes, gray area businesses like Darknet's marketplaces.
So that's possible on the other project as well. So there's nothing about the technology of Classic that makes it somehow better for those type of projects. And that's anytime you have technology that's open, that's available for anybody to use, they can be abused. So yeah, that's not inherent in the Ethereum Classic technology that those things are possible. Carla, do you want to say anything more about that?
Yeah, I was going to say they are actually more at risk of being brought down by nefarious activities because of they've opened themselves up to litigation. But the fact that they've opened themselves up to litigation potentially, I don't think is going to deter darknets from running on Ethereum until it comes to some sort of tipping point and things really start to get out of hand over there. And at that point, then they'll be in a real pickle. But I don't, you know, darknets, I guess you could technically say, run on the American dollar currently as well. So I try to see the blockchain as more of a utility, and any government interference, you know, if they want to crack down on a darknet, as long as they don't touch the blockchain, you know, that's so be it. If there's a darknet operating off Ethereum Classic and the authorities find them and prosecute them, again, that stays true to our principles because that's the authorities taking care of something in their jurisdiction with their men and their resources. But the blockchain will not be altered for you know, forking certain things out like that.
Can I say something?
Sure. Yeah.
So remember what I said about the DAO attack, that if you, just because you could do something on the blockchain doesn't mean that you're immune to the laws of your country. So just because you could do whatever darknet technology that you're worried about doesn't mean that, again, that you can't be prosecuted by the laws in your country, right? Immutability doesn't change that.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so if you could speculate, like, what is your plan as a Ethereum Classic in case of the 51% attack? Because your hash rate is much lower than the main chain hash rate. So we could say that it's possible on the Ethereum Classic chain that 51% attack is plausible. So what do you think? What is the plan? What would happen?
Well, there's always that possibility for an attack, but we do have some noteworthy miners that have switched over to Classic. And the mining power goes up and down with the price. So I don't know that I would agree that our mining power is necessarily you know, very low, and it's always low, and it's never going to go up. I don't think anybody is losing sleep over that. But Carla, do you want to say something else about that?
Yeah, I was going to say I also expect after Ethereum switches over to proof of stake, we're going to have an influx of mining power coming from all sorts of places all over the world. So I'm pretty excited about that moving forward, and then this will be a little bit of a different conversation potentially.
Yeah, that's a great point that I should have mentioned that. So proof of stake, the miners will be put out of a job, right? And they're still going to want to make money. So presumably all the Ethereum miners are then going to switch to Classic. So you're going to see a spike in the mining.
If the price going to go up, this is the necessary point, right? If the price stay low, they won't mine Ethereum Classic.
I don't want to speculate on price or anything like that, but I'll say it's an exciting project that I believe in the long-term future for a number of different reasons, and kind of like something I always say all the time that I think is pretty true. After the fork, we kind of evolved from Ethereum. So we're the evolution of that chain that has all the principles that give Bitcoin its value in addition to Ethereum technology. So I think those are two important things that have now been joined together. So I think it's a really good outlook for the future. But not the price. The important thing is that we focus on the project, work hard on the project, because the blockchain is really nothing without strong work ethic and development behind it. So everybody's working pretty hard to gather resources and get together and work on the project as hard as we can to give it a bright future.
Okay, so to sum up our interview, because I think we've talked a lot, could you tell us like what ETC needs to develop more to the future? Like, what's the main need of the Ethereum Classic? What's the main resource you need?
Well, we're a growing community. We're only a couple of months old, but I'd like to say, we're like a snowball picking up snow as we roll down the hill. So we're getting a lot of interest from the Chinese community and other communities around the world. And as more interest builds from these communities around the world, not only will we have more resources being committed to us to different projects, but also the pool of people that are interested in the project will be greater. And as that pool increases, we're going to have a greater draw for people that are working on the project as well, developers and such like that. So where if you had 10 people interested in a project, how many great developers can you pull out of 10 people? But if we grow this community, and that's kind of something that I'm really working on, we grow to this community of 5,000 or 10,000 or 50,000 into a community of 500,000 or 1 million people, that's a larger pool to pull great people from. And I think if we work on growing the community and that snowball picks up enough snow, we're going to have a lot of great people working on this project. So I'm excited about that.
Would you like to add something, Christian?
Yeah, so I think that the biggest need, and it's what I'm trying to address, is the need to make it as much easier for people to enter the community, to understand the technology. I know when I was researching Ethereum way back, the documentation was very primitive, the tools were very primitive, everybody was brilliant, but there wasn't a lot of good communication with new people. And so I'm trying to address that. And so one of the needs I sometimes half seriously say is that complaints are welcome, in the sense that if you like documentation, if you want more, if you want me to change something, give me feedback. We need all the feedback we can to help people better, to make better tools, make better white papers, whatever they need. We need to listen to the community.
Okay. Could you tell us where can we find you, on Twitter or your email? How people can contact you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter, Chris Seberino, and you'll see my Ethereum stuff there, Ethereum Classic. I'm also on Slack, the Ethereum Classic Slack channels. I have a Facebook page. You can find me on LinkedIn. I also post my content, I mentioned it on Reddit, on the subreddits, Ethereum Classic and Ethereum, so all those places are fine.
And you, Carol?
Yeah, same thing, Twitter, LinkedIn. I'm also on the Ethereum Classic Reddit. I'll talk to you after the show, and you can post all our links, in the description below the video. But I think the best place to communicate with me for certain questions and for not just good responses by myself, but other responses by, really knowledgeable community members would be our Ethereum Classic Reddit. So if you have a question or you're interested in the project, we have a call to action post, which is an announcement at the top that's been there since the beginning. That'll answer a lot of your different questions about resources and where to go for certain things. And if you just have a general question about the project, feel free to post on there, and you're going to get a lot of great responses.
Okay, thank you guys for taking the time for the interview. I'm very pleased that you've come today. And we're going to finish the transmission. Do not hang up. We can hang out after the transmission. So thank you for all the viewers. We got quite a lot of viewers today. So thank you guys, and see you in the next one.
All right.